Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, it is going great. I'm so glad that you asked. It is really starting to feel like football season. Like we're talking about show topics, and we are firmly out of the like, well, I don't know which team has the prettiest costumes off season kind of stuff. It is like, all right, let us get into some like football. Let's go.
Let's go. And so we did get to see the first three practices. We've heard some of the stuff that happened at the fourth practice, the closed practice, which you can find a discussion of over at BuckeyeInsiders.com on the Buckeye Insiders message board. Sign up now. You can read about stuff we're hearing, and it's coming in daily, sometimes hourly and by the minute. But we now, having seen what we do, having seen what we've seen, there are still some questions, of course. Hey, after 4 days, 4 days of camp, yes, you're still going to have questions. And so I want to throw some questions out there for you, Tom. And the first one for the offense that I have that it is unanswered to me. And really, that's what matters. We still need to see more from Tavien St. Clair. He is the backup, but it would be good to see him performing consistently like a starter because that's what you want your backup to do. Now, it's not what every backup does, but it's also so early that at this point last year, there were still, today was a better day for Lincoln Keenholz. Today was a better day for Julian Sayin. And that is whether you want to believe it, not you, whether the people want to believe it or not. These were the reports coming out when we'd be waiting to do interviews, and somebody would come out, and I remember talking with somebody that I know. He's like, "Boy, it was a good day for Lincoln today," and he was clearly the guy. And then by the middle of camp, it's Julian Sayin has been named the starter. I would like to start hearing more, seeing more, but we probably won't see any more, but hear more that Tavien St. Clair, who is the de facto and the true backup, is getting some raves for his ability to move the ball.
Yeah, because you need that. They have not had to turn to the backup quarterback in every single season, but you go back through the years and everyone will immediately jump to 2014 where it's like, well, you need to have three quarterbacks because you're going to need a third quarterback once you get to the college football playoff. And that's really, I mean, like a huge outlier. But you go back a few years and they were up at Michigan State and they needed, I think that was 2022, they needed Devin Brown to come in and throw a touchdown pass. And, and then you get your starter back and it's fine, but you are going to need a backup probably at some point during some kind of a game. And you need Tavien St. Clair is someone where everything is there, all the pieces are there, but right now you're still sort of in the assembly portion of the process where you have the size, you have the strength, you have we saw him run a little bit on Saturday and it was like he looked good, just kind of finding a little bit of an opening and just like boom, taking off downfield. But you want to see him be able to kind of make all the throws. And that's still a little bit of a work in process. You're looking around, you have all the parts, you have the IKEA assembly instructions, but there's still a little bit in the guy with the question mark over his head sort of portion where it's like you gotta figure out how to put all that together. And realistically, having covered these camps for years and years and years, there are going to be days where you hear he had a great day. There are going to be days where you say he had a bad day, and that's true of virtually everyone. There are veteran guys on the team where we'll occasionally hear, yeah, he didn't have a very good day, and it's like, yeah, I'm still betting on that guy to have a very good season this year. You want to start hearing a little bit more of, yeah, man, Tavien really had a good day today, and it's just that's that's one of those things that we're just going to be kind of watching for throughout the month, because if something does happen to Julian Sayin, he is the next man up, and then all of a sudden, boom, the season is on your shoulders.
Yeah, and we're only getting to see things immediately. We're not seeing the film afterwards, talking with Tavien St. Clair afterwards. What did you see? What were, because remember, he's the number two quarterback. He has got the number two offensive line, and sometimes threes will mix in there as well. So you're going with the number two offensive line against a number two defense that is basically rotational with the number one defense in a lot of places, especially up front. When your number twos he's facing are John Walker and James Smith, Like those guys are also going to be with the ones, and so are some of the defensive ends. The mixing and matching that they do. So it's asking Tavien to a lot to handle essentially a starting unit defensively with a second team offensive line, which is why I wonder how many times Lincoln Keenholz had a better day today is because did he have the first team offensive line? And is the reason Julian Sayin had the better day the next day because he had the first team offensive line? 'Cause you saw some of the same stuff with Devin Brown and Kyle McCord. And right now, what we really haven't seen much of is in the past when they would do two offensive lines, it would just be a completely mix and match. Right now, it seems like they're still working to find their top five, so they don't want to do too much mixing until they know, before they know who that's going to be. And I guess that can take us right into the next unanswered question, which is basically Ian Moore versus Josh Padilla in terms of being one of those top five. And they're not competing for the same position. It's just a matter of Ian Moore at left tackle and Austin Siereveld at right guard better than Josh Padilla at right guard and Austin Siereveld at left tackle. The first day, though, Tom, when we saw Austin Siereveld at left tackle, or Ian Moore at left tackle and Austin Siereveld at right guard, it was kind of a little nod, but now it's up to Josh Padilla to turn the nod into like no.
Wait, nothing is settled yet, and I think that they are. You get the sense they're leaning towards Ian Moore as the left tackle right now, and I think you've seen enough positive stuff there that I think that is probably going to at least be a viable solution there. But they are not, it doesn't seem, in any huge rush to make a decision. One thing that it kind of jumped out to me was going back and listening to Ryan Day talk about the offensive line, shuffle and who's going to be the best five and all that kind of stuff. This was Thursday after the first practice of the fall. We're talking about, is it going to be Ian Moore at left tackle and Austin Siereveld at right guard, or Austin Siereveld at left tackle and Josh Padilla at right guard? And Ryan Day brought up Phillip Daniels' name as well. So I think there's a possibility that the best five is Austin Siereveld and Ian Moore at the tackle positions and Josh Padilla at right guard. Like, that's a possibility. I'm not expecting that. That's certainly not where I think it's most likely to land. But I also don't think this is a purely binary thing. Is it Josh Padilla or is it Ian Moore? I think there's other possibilities at least on the table here, and they're going to take their time and they're going to explore this. But my expectation would be by the end of this upcoming week, or maybe early the following week, so Monday, Tuesday, something like that, of the following week. So that would be something like the 17th, 18th, give or take, of August. I think at that point, they're going to want to know who their best five is. But I think they're probably going to take a little more time and explore things just to make sure they know they have the right answer.
The good news is they have options. It's always bad news when, we're going to move a defensive lineman over to see if he can compete, or we're going to bulk up this tight end, which we've seen over the years at Ohio State. And now, when they've moved a defensive end or a defensive tackle over to offensive line, it has generally worked well enough. I mean, they won a national title with Darryl Baldwin as a tackle, and we saw Chase Ferris do well. We've seen Joel Hale go back and forth from offense to defense. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's always better when you don't have to learn to play a new position. You were born an offensive lineman, you'll die an offensive lineman, and in the middle, you'll figure out where you fit on the Ohio State offensive line. The last question, and there are more, the last question we're going to talk about today is we have seen nothing from Kyle Parker at receiver yet. Now, he's been coming back from an injury. They're bringing him along. And I was there Saturday, and they're doing all their stretching, and then it's like, all right, it's time for practice, and Kyle Parker basically just heads inside because now it's like I've got to go do what I can do, and we still need to see him. And he had some positive buzz coming out of the spring and into the summer, and so I'd like to see some of that on the field. Now, Tom, I was way, you would say overboard, talking about Devin McEwen. And then you're there on Saturday, and it's like Devin McEwen dropped a couple passes, did not did not live up to what he did before. I won't say didn't live up to the hype. It wasn't hype. It was fact. It happened. We all saw it. Uh, but it would be good for Kyle Parker to have some of those days in the very near future.
Yeah, he needs to get out there and be healthy as soon as he possibly can because, yeah, the season is still almost 4 weeks away, a little under 4 weeks away, but you got to get out there and you got to be healthy and you got to start building timing and all that kind of stuff. And you got to show that you've got to earn a spot in that rotation because, the Jeremiah Smith spot is spoken for. And you would assume Brandon Inniss is not going to be the easiest guy in the world to unseat in the slot. And then Devin McEwen, we went into the fall saying Devin McEwen and Kyle Parker somewhat interchangeably, and Parker could play inside, Parker could play outside. Where is he going to fit in? And right now, you're just sort of saying Devin McEwen and Kyle Parker is just watching. And, if you're hurt, you're hurt. There's nothing you can do about that other than just get healthy. But you're also hearing enough about some of the younger guys, particularly Chris Henry Jr. and Brock Boyd, that they want to find 5 or 6 guys that they can rely on this year to at least be rotational guys. My sense is that those 2 of those freshmen are going to at least be in that conversation. And so now you've got Kyle Parker is looking ahead of him at the guys, like Devin McEwen and Brandon Inniss, but he's also kind of got to be checking his shoulder a little bit for those freshmen because objects in the mirror may be closer than they appear in some cases. So, this is nothing that Kyle Parker has done wrong. So you guys miss time in fall camp. That is a thing that happened on every team, every single season, but it would certainly be really, really good for Kyle Parker and really, really good for the Ohio State wide receiver room if he was back out there and you could really sort of figure out what do you really have there and where do these pieces really fit best together.
Yeah, I mean, he left LSU to come to Ohio State, be with Cortez Hankton. He's itching to get out there and show everybody. We saw Legend Bay on his first practice running really hard, like wanting to just get back out there. So Kyle Parker dealing with what he's dealing with. Once he gets out there, he's going to be feisty as heck and trying to make plays all over the place. And it would be good to see what happens, interesting to see what happens from that. But his versatility, his ability to perhaps make guys miss. When you look at him, and I've said it before, he's 5'10", 195. He looks like a running back. So he's not a guy that you're necessarily going to bring down with an arm tackle after the catch. It's just a matter of what are they doing with him. I think we're going to see some screens with him, screens with Devin McEwen, some quicker, shorter stuff to allow them to use that burst and that run. Although based on what I saw from Devin McEwen, he does not need to just be a short pass guy. He can stretch the field, and I'm interested to see if Kyle Parker can. He did it a little bit at LSU, but I don't know that that's his role with Ohio State. But again, we don't know what his role is because we haven't yet seen him. But we are talking about this and more over at BuckeyeInsiders.com. Like I said, we've got some other intel there as well about how things are going at practice and what we're hearing and what we're seeing and all of that. So if any of that kind of stuff interests you, and if you're listening to this podcast, it probably does, you can find even more of that and us over at BuckeyeInsiders.com. Would love to see you there. It is the absolute best way to support what we do. So that will do it from here. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you all later.